Hello and welcome to our Quoting with Colbert lecture. In this lecture, we will further discuss incorporating direct quotations, and we will review an example from Stephen Colbert where we see the importance of incorporating quotations properly. Remember, when including a direct quotation, the quotation must be identical to the original. Occasionally, you may need to remove a piece of a quotation, and you replace the piece of that quotation with 3 dots or an ellipsis to show that you removed something. Alternatively, if you need to change something within a quotation, you can place that changed material in brackets. When quoting, try to use a narrow segment of the source as opposed to sentence-long quotations. Finally, your quotation must be attributed to the original author. In academic writing, you will want to include direct quotations in order to support your positions, but you do not want to quote too often. Use direct quotations when the original writing is particularly memorable. You can also use a direct quotation when the writer says something better than you could possibly reword it. Lastly, you should include a direct quotation when you need to add authority to your essay and you want to use that source's credibility. There are a few strategies that you can use to successfully integrate quotations. When quoting, try to avoid using full sentence quotations unless necessary. Again, try to quote only a lively or meaningful portion of the sentence. Do also avoid using 2 quotations in a row without including explanatory or analytical material of your own. Lastly, in order to avoid standalone quotations, make sure to introduce your quote either by indicating what it is intended to show or by naming the source. Quotations can be included as short quotations or long quotations. Short quotations are very easy to incorporate into your writing. Remember, you can tie the quote into your writing by introducing the source in the sentence or by highlighting what the quote is intended to show. In our first example, the quote is introduced by naming the source. So, according to Fischetti, 2013, quote, "Fully restoring the system would cost $5 billion, end quote. We know that since this is a direct quotation, we need to include our page number, page 58. And as we can see, when we compare this quote to the original passage, we only need to quote the piece of the sentence that we need. Alternatively, in our second example, the quote is introduced by highlighting what it is intended to show, as opposed to introducing it using the author. So we have, quote, he stated, "Flood barriers would cost $10 billion to $20 billion, end quote. But this is the only sure way to protect against a similar storm." We still need to cite our source, so we see in parentheses, Fischetti, 2013, page 59. Also pay close attention to the ellipses, or the use of 3 dots, to show that the writer has removed a piece of the original quote. Long quotations include direct quotations that are 40 words or longer. These quotations should be formatted as block quotations where each line of the quote is indented. Block quotes do not need to be placed in quotation marks, as each line is indented and that shows it is a quotation, but they should still be integrated and cited appropriately. For example, we have a sentence that says, Fischetti, 2013, notes that changes to flood insurance rates may impact the desire to rebuild. We then introduce our long quote with a colon, and we would indent each line of that quote, which reads, a homeowner at the highest point in a floodplain might pay $800 a year, for example, but someone near the lowest point might pay $25,000. Gradually, people might opt to abandon the most expensive and vulnerable land. And we see our page number follows our quote still, and we see page 66 in parentheses. Each line of our quote needs to be indented, our author's last name and year are included in the sentence, and our page number is included in parentheses at the top. In this case, we provided context for our quote and showed our reader why we're incorporating it, and our quote goes to illustrate something that we're developing in our paper. Now, follow the link to watch this video clip from Stephen Colbert. As you watch the clip, pay close attention to how Colbert leads into a quotation, how much of a quote he uses, and how he continues after the quote. Please begin the clip at 45 seconds into the video. Regardless of if you quote from a source or paraphrase or summarize the information, you will need to include citations. Remember, last week we discussed how to include citations for direct quotations, as well as summaries and paraphrases.